Hello YouTube, Plains Prepper here. In this video I want to go over why I chose the AR-15 as my go-to platform. It's kind of a long story. I had some, I guess, mental issues along the way that there were certain things that I'd heard my entire life that weren't necessarily true, and getting over those humps cost me a lot of money, so I wanted to kind of share my experience so that way someone else can hopefully learn from my mistakes. The story starts out when I bought a Saiga 308 as my go-to rifle. It was the first detachable magazine box-fed rifle I'd ever owned that wasn't a 22. And the reason I went with it was because I was under the impression that I needed a full-size caliber in order to do what I was going to do, I guess, or what I thought I needed to do. And so the 308 was the way to go. And at the time I didn't have enough to buy like an M1A or a FAL. And so I decided, well, Saiga's, it's affordable, it'll do what I want to do. Well, the problem with that is I didn't do my research, and I kind of ran into a number of issues. First off was the thought that I needed something that would go beyond 300 to 500 yards, which the AR-15, I mean, it's not real powerful at 500 yards, but it will shoot 500 yards. And I just realized, I didn't realize at the time that I don't shoot that far in any situation, like defensive situation. If they're that far away, odds are I'm probably going to be running away, not returning fire. And the other thing about the Saiga was that the magazines for it, which I decided at the time I'd just eat the cost, but the magazines for it were like 35 bucks a piece, and the only ones that I could find for that price were all polymer. Well, on the AK where you rock in, or on Saiga where you rock in the mag, it's a lot of stress gets put on that front mag well, and I'll roll in some pictures if I can find one, if I still have it, and I broke off 2 magazines right there on the front of the feed lips, or the front of the magazine, just by loading the rifle. I wasn't doing any drills, I wasn't hossing on it, I was just loading it, and it just broke right off. Which, after the 3rd mag did that, I decided it was time for a new gun, because the other thing about the Saiga was, for a 308, you can reach out 800 yards and hit hard at 800 yards, or hit harder than anything else, than this would at 800 yards. It was a 3 MOA rifle, so I mean that's at 800 yards you're looking at minute of man if you're lucky, and it just really didn't fit the bill in a lot of ways. Plus, finding aftermarket parts for it, especially the 308 version, just got to be a real problem. And the other thing is ammo cost. When you're sending 80 to 90 cents or $1 downrange, depending on where you find your ammo at, or trying to pull the trigger, it's really hard to pay for to train with. And that's where I kind of wish I had known more at the time, because if you look at all the money I spent on buying 308, granted I have other 308 rifles, so it's not a total loss, but I could have probably had several thousand rounds of 5.56 at the time. That's kind of my next point on the AR-15. The reason I chose the AR-15 is because, I guess, magazine availability. They're American-made magazines that are good. There's PMags, there's Lancers, there's, I believe, H&K, though I don't have any experience with the H&Ks, but I've heard good things about them. And a PMag is 12 to 15 bucks, and the Saiga mags are $35. So you're looking at, I mean, for 1 mag, I could buy a box of ammunition and a magazine, or buy 2 magazines. The other thing about it was the intermediate cartridge. Originally I thought I needed a 7.62x39. I wanted a 30 caliber. I grew up shooting 8mm Mauser, so my philosophy was if it's not 30 caliber, it's not going to do anything. And what kind of moved me to the 5.56 223 is that I traded the Saiga off, and this is another thing where I should have done my research a little better. I traded it off for a Kel-Tec SU-16, which the reason I wanted to trade for that is because it had a piston in it. I was under the impression that ARs were unreliable, and if they got a little bit dirty, they would just choke on you because there was no piston in it. Well, I had more issues with the SU-16, and it tended to have a double feed every magazine. Like it would be randomly throughout the mag. I'd have a double feed, and it just seems flimsy. Like, especially when you folded it, like the hinge there was really flimsy. You can see I've got a few videos on it. I ended up trading that off, and it just basically was just a disaster all the way around. And so I ended up building an AR-15, because after shooting the Kel-Tec SU-16, I grew to like the 5.56 round. It's light, it's fast, and that's one thing where it has over the 7.62x39 is that because of the speed of the bullet, it's a little more accurate. Everybody says AKs aren't accurate, and that's not really true. But there's a reason AKs are a little more reliable and a little less accurate than the AR-15, and there's a reason ARs are a little more accurate and a little less reliable than an AK, and that's got a lot to do with the cartridge, but that's a whole other video. Basically, a straight-walled cartridge versus a conical-shaped cartridge is always going to, there's always going to be differences there. But anyway, so I did some researching around and look at the AR and see just how unreliable they were. See if what I've been told my whole life was actually true. And fact is, it wasn't. I mean, this gun, I haven't cleaned it yet. I've got about 200-300 rounds to it. I haven't cleaned it once. I've lubricated it when I put it together, and that's it. And it's ran flawlessly. Granted, I plan on running this rifle a lot harder, but so far so good, no problems. And there's a lot of, and it came down to after deciding that I didn't need a piston to be reliable was just logistics. In my area, 760 by 39, you can find it, but finding it in bulk is really hard. And when you do find it in bulk, it's not exactly cheap. Whereas 223 or 556, any place that sells 12 gauge shotgun shells is going to have 223 or 556. I found pretty much across the board. Like my Walmart generally has, well, if there's not a panic going on, my Walmart has 223 and 556 in like a plethora of brands and types and all that. That was the other thing about this, is that the variety of ammo that this will shoot, like I can shoot from a 55 grain FMJ all the way up to a 75 grain Boattail hollow point match. And again, the AK, it doesn't have that range, which some would argue that makes it simpler and easier, and it does, but when you're looking at, as I said, magazines, you can find a cheap AK mag. Well, around here where I'm at, you don't see AK mags. You just don't. And the ones you do are like the Magpul P mags, which when I got this rifle didn't exist, and they've not exactly had a good track record so far. So it's not, I don't want to be my go-to magazine. And but all those reasons are more or less why I chose the AR-15. There are a few things that it doesn't do well, but the benefits far outweigh the I guess cons. Or the deficiencies, I should say. The other thing about this is a very modular rifle. Like I have, this lower can accept any number of uppers that are designed to do any number of things. Like this rifle here is set up for like a rifleman or a close range type setup with the red dot and the white. I've got one that you've seen in my Primary Arms 4x14 by 44 scope video. That one's set up. It's a 20-inch heavy barrel. It's designed to go out 600 yards and hit well and accurate at 600 yards, and it'll do that all day long. Granted, it's heavier and all that, but if I wanted to, I could swap this lower onto that gun and have any number of things. Or I could put this upper on that gun, and there's just a lot of modularity to it. Plus, I'm sure everyone will agree, the AR parts market is just flooded right now, and there's any number of manufacturers that are making good parts for the AR, and they fit no matter what. Pretty much, you buy an aftermarket part for an AK, you're going to be using a Dremel at some point to make things fit. And not that I'm bashing AKs. I've shot AKs. I like AKs. They do everything well. They do what they do well. It's just that for me, in my situation and my location, it just wasn't a viable option logistically. Like I only have a certain dollar amount to spend on my guns and my ammo, and the AK just wasn't going to do that for me, just like the Saiga didn't do that for me. So I'm hoping this helped someone out there. I'm going to probably do a video here on how building your first AR, and again, more mistakes that I made that I'm hoping someone else can avoid. The biggest thing to say is do your research, do your research, do your research. Look at what you need, and like no gun is going to do everything. Like that was my problem with the Saiga. I was hoping that because it was a big caliber, it would reach out further, but because it was a shorter gun, it would work well for CQB. And there's just that's the thing with this. It's like this gun here is tailored to do what I want it to do, just like the SPR is tailored to do its one job and do it very well. Because anytime you run into a kind of a jack of all trades, it's good at everything, but it's master of none. Well, what usually ends up happening is that all the things that it's bad at are amplified, and all the things that it's good at are minified. So, like I said, if you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you later.